Former Marlins GM Kim Ng was on the Southside yesterday. Would be nice if she stayed permanently. Let's discuss why next on Locked On White Sox.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm your host, Todd Welter, a lifelong Sox fan and the site expert of Southside Showdown, part of the Fansided Network. You can check out my written content at SouthsideShowdown.com. And also, I've covered Major League Baseball for outlets such as the Associated Press. And thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And make sure to hit that like button on today's episode. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox if you've not done so already. And if you can't catch the show on YouTube, follow or subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts so you can catch it on the drive to work or when you're doing some yard work, as Locked On White Sox is available via audio on places such as Apple and Spotify. Well, Kim Ng was at Guaranteed Rate Field to speak at a panel as part of Women's Equality Night last night. I'll discuss why in the first segment ownership should have done everything to make sure she speaks as president of baseball operations. Then the White Sox made a flurry of roster moves yesterday. One was good, but it was also not enough that I'll discuss in the second segment. And finally, might as well talk about the Sox getting swept by the Tigers and the offense doing nothing against a rookie pitcher and the bullpen blowing another lead. Basically a run-of-the-mill loss. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. Well, Kim Ng should be running the White Sox. And in an ideal world, at this time last year, owner Jerry Reinsdorf would have been patient and conducted a very thorough search to replace Kenny Williams and Rick Hahn. And he would have found out that Ng was probably on her way out of Miami and with her ties to the club and, well, with her ties to the White Sox and being qualified to run a team, he would have hired her to run the Sox instead of the unqualified Chris Getz. But instead, Jerry wanted to turn things around quickly and conducted the laziest search in baseball history and just promoted Chris Getz, despite Getz being bad at his previous job, director of player development. And hey, Getz was rumored to have said all the right things to Jerry, put all the sweet nothings into Jerry's ear to weasel his way into the job that he's proven that he's completely in over his head. So, it was a mistake by Jerry. And you know what? It's never too late to correct that mistake. And indulge me here. Jerry could, just hire Kim Ng to be the president of baseball operations. Make her Chris Getz's boss. And there's not a precedent of Jerry giving out such a powerful title. Got to remember, Kenny Williams was only the executive vice president, despite media types usually rounding up his role to president of baseball ops. But there is precedent of Jerry realizing he made a terrible mistake with a GM pick, and quickly correcting it when he only had Hawk Harrelson as the general manager for one season. Now, granted, that was 39 years ago when Jerry could be more patient since he was a younger man. And this is an owner who now has admitted his days are limited, as he's now obviously a little older. And he wants to win now, even though he will not spend the necessary money to get the players to win a title or invest the necessary cash to build a modern front office. And that is why Ng would have been, and still is, the perfect person to run the White Sox, since she built a playoff team in Miami, despite that club being just as dysfunctional as the White Sox. Chris Getz clearly needs a boss who's not Jerry Reinsdorf. And that is why you bring in Ng, but instead of being Getz's boss, if you did that, maybe you might create another power dynamic issue under Kenny and Rick, because that was the issue with those two. You never knew who was truly in charge because both were empowered. You clearly put her in charge, like what, teams do, like the Los Angeles Dodgers, or even though they're not getting the best results, the Chicago Cubs. Like, Jed Hoyer's in charge. Carter Hawkins helps Jed Hoyer. And Getz, he'd be the GM to help her since, he's still viewed as a promising front office person. I think it was Lawrence Holmes again who said on 670 Score that Getz could be a very good GM, like in a few years, just not now. And Kim Ng, yeah, she's a trailblazer. She was the first woman GM ever in baseball when she was hired in 2020. But it would be more than just a token hire. She's actually qualified. She checks the box of someone who's been part of the White Sox family, as her first job in baseball was on the Southside. And it was in the 1990s when the front office was actually respectable. And if you do not want someone with ties to the White Sox, well, she kind of washed off the stink of being with the White Sox front office with tenures with the New York Yankees and the Los Angeles Dodgers, along with work in the league office. And then she took over the Marlins. And the first 2 seasons, she had to deal with Derek Jeter getting in the way. But once he left, she had full control. And as the Chicago Maroon pointed out in an alum write-up of her, because again, she's an alum of the University of Chicago, pretty smart person. This is what they wrote. Fans began to doubt whether the Marlins would ever be relevant with the front office they had in place. However, in the 2023 season, Ang quickly proved the doubters wrong. With Jeter out of the picture, Ang was in total control of the roster. The struggling Luzardo turned out to be a revelation for the team. In 2023, he experienced a breakout season. That's Jesus Luzardo for the Marlins, pitching to a 3.58 earned run average and setting a career high in innings pitched. He was one of the many pieces that helped turn the Marlins' fortune around. Luzardo was far from the only key addition Ang made to the team. Prior to the season beginning, Ang made the difficult decision to trade away fan favorite and locker room leader Pablo Lopez to the Minnesota Twins in exchange for second baseman Luis Arraez. The move was a difficult one to make, but necessary for a Marlins team that was loaded with pitching depth, but plagued with offensive struggles the year before. On September 30th, 2023, the Marlins clinched a playoff berth after defeating the Pittsburgh Pirates 7-3. The game did not follow traditional script as the injury-plagued Marlins opted for a bullpen game in which they used 8 relief pitchers but no traditional starting pitcher. 6 of the 8 pitchers used in the game were acquired by Ang during her tenure, and one of Ang's big trade deadline acquisitions, Josh Bell, contributed 3 runs batted in. This playoff clinching moment was a culmination of all that Ang had achieved in her tenure with the Marlins. And Ang also hired Skip Schumacher, and he won the Manager of the Year for the 2023 season. You know, she hired him last year, and he's rumored to be the top candidate that the Sox want to get. So getting Ang gives you a better chance of actually getting your top target. So let's see. She endured 2 losing seasons to start her tenure, in part because Derek Jeter was not exactly running things well. She gets full control, and suddenly the team becomes a playoff team. I think she's qualified. Now, our farm systems were ranked 16th in 2022 and 18th in 2023. But let's look at this in the context that it's a lot better than the Sox, as they were ranked 26th both those years. And when it comes to prospects, you got to remember, it's always a collaboration with the amateur scouting director and the GM. And then it's up to the director of player development to help develop those players. And right now, Ang is working for Athletes Unlimited, where she should be running the White Sox. And like I just said, it's never too late to make up for a mistake. I mean, the only reason why she's out of a job is the Marlins owner creates chaos. And he wanted to put someone above her. And you could be like, well, why? Why would he want to do that? Well, it looks like he wanted to get somebody in from the Tampa Bay Rays organization, Peter Bendix, and Ang was not going to work for him. You know, so it's one of those things where, you know, the Marlins do these things. They always love to shoot themselves in the foot, just kind of like the White Sox. So again, dysfunctional franchises do this stuff too. So there's precedent that you can bring in somebody that even you recently hired within, like, say, a year or two to be their boss. And again, Ang is someone who's qualified to do the job. She has a postseason credential on her resume, and she's not afraid to make shrewd moves. You know, like trading a 24-year-old left-handed pitching prospect to get Jake Berger. Yeah, she fleeced the Sox on that one. Whereas Getz, he's the one getting fleeced. Heck, the guy even said the team is still in the organization stages of starting the manager search. He should have already had a list. He should be doing background checks on potential managers right now. He should be doing, you know, the informal interviews when teams are coming into town. Because it was clear by the first week of the season, Pedro Grifol was not going to last. Bumbling the Eric Fetty trade has prolonged the Sox turnaround from, say, as soon as, and again, this is best case scenario, 2026 to probably 2028, even 2029 with Getz in charge. And are you really confident the team that will get back to being competitive by that time? I'm not, but I would be if Kim Ang was in charge. However, the Sox front office did make some moves yesterday, with one being the Kruk call. The problem is it was not enough, and I'll discuss why next on Locked On White Sox. Now, you've heard me talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Well, FanDuel has something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon game out of market. And all you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. And also, say you're done with playing the White Sox and you want to move on to the Chicago Bears. FanDuel has some futures on the Bears that if they hit, you can make some nice cash on. Hey, Bears are at plus 3,500 for the Super Bowl. You are very confident that that the Bears are going to make the Super Bowl. Why not throw $5 on that? And if it does somehow hit, not only are you going to be celebrating like crazy, but you could win $175. The Bears to score 1+ scoring touchdown. I think it's actually 1+ passing touchdown. Might be tough to actually happen, but it is plus 2,100, and it can be fun to root for to hit, as that is what my buddy does when he plays FanDuel. Got a buddy on the text chain. He loves to throw down the realistic bets, thinks that he's going to win, but then he throws some money down, like maybe even $1 or $2, because you don't have to throw a ton down on, say, the game going into overtime. And with things like plus 2,100 makes it just more fun to watch that game, especially if it hits. And just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sports book. And thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen today. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On MLB podcast. Host Paul Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully, is here daily to provide national expertise with his trademark humor to help you get ready for the MLB playoffs here in the dog days of summer. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day on Locked On MLB, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And the White Sox start a 3-game home set with the Texas Rangers tonight. The first pitch is at 7:10 p.m. Central Standard Time. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. And welcome back to Locked On White Sox. I'm your host, Todd Welter. Again, make sure to hit that like button on today's episode and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox if you've not done so already. And if you can't catch the show on YouTube, follow or subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast, so you can catch it on the drive to work or when you're doing some yard work, as Locked On White Sox is available via audio on places such as Apple and Spotify. All right, so recalling third baseman Brian Ramos, that was the right move. What was not the right move was bringing him back up after having a 10-game hitting streak in Charlotte and throwing him on the bench in favor of playing Lenyn Sosa. They played Lenyn Sosa last night at third, and he went 0 for 4 with a K. And if you're going to recall Ramos, he's got to be playing every day. The guy is 22 years old, I believe. He should be playing every day. And interim manager Grady Sizemore says Ramos and Miguel Vargas will split time at third, and that's also going to be a mistake. It should be Ramos at third, Brooks Baldwin at short, and even though his defense might be bad, and he's definitely trending towards being a bad Major League Baseball player or a 4A player, Vargas at second. And you ride that out through the rest of the season to see if that can be your infield next season. Or throw Vargas at DH. I want to see, even though he's hitting .097 with the Sox, he's the crown jewel of this trade deadline deal with that gets bumbled so bad. He should be playing every day. Let's see if he can eventually realize, all right, I'm not on the Dodgers anymore. I got to accept my fate. If I want to stick around, if I want to be tendered a contract, I got to start hitting. But playing Sosa over Ramos and Vargas was not what I would consider not enough. It's definitely something that I'm critiquing, clearly. And I definitely want to see again, because I think in the spring training, Colson Montgomery, the Sox top infield, the Sox top hitting prospect, he should be given a shot to win the job, but it should be him versus Brooks Baldwin. Because we know the Sox aren't going to be spending a ton of money at a free agent shortstop. And if they are, it would be like bringing Paul DeYoung back. So let's see what those two guys can do. And then again, you play Ramos at third to see, can he still be the future there? And Vargas at second, or put Vargas in the outfield, although he's going to drop the ball there too. So, that's why, again, it was a bad trade by Chris Getz. But again, I would not consider that where they made these moves and it wasn't enough. No, it was the Sox made one bullpen move. One. and it was recalling Sammy Peralta. And I keep saying it over and over and over, and I will say it. I will beat that dead horse, Andrew Benintendi. But the bullpen needs a complete overhaul, and the Sox have the arms in the farm system to do it because they should be using this as an early spring training. I may be vehemently opposed to embracing a historic losing record, but I would go from vehemently to just opposed if the process was, let's get a look at what Sean Burke can do, or Trey McGuff, or Addison Coffey, or Matt Foster, or heck, even Jake Etter can do out of the pen. Use this as an early spring training so you can get an accurate evaluation and then determine what veterans do I need to bring in. My fear is Chris Getz is going to go into the offseason. He's going to say, I got to fix the bullpen, and I'm going to spend a ton of my limited financial resources on it again, just like his predecessor did. And again, I'd rather go down with getting a good evaluation instead of trotting out the same old tired bullpen arms who keep giving up leads like Jared Suster and Justin Anderson did last night. I mean, I don't get why this front office is so scared to go with drastic changes. I'd rather go with the unknown and hope it turns out to actually be okay to avoid 120 losses rather than go with the known, which is a bad bullpen that has helped put you on track to lose 120 games. That's the other thing that's so frustrating because I can tell they probably want to go with these guys that they've been going with because, well, they're known quantities. They can get outs here and there. But that's all they're doing. They're getting outs here and there, and they're usually blowing the lead. Kai Busch, he also got demoted. And again, nothing wrong with wanting him to work on his command in AAA. If the Sox were, say, a middle-of-the-road team, say the Sox were in the Tigers' fate where, they won and they're back at 500 and they might still have an outside shot at the playoffs, I would get that. But you're 70 games under 500 and you're still trotting out Chris Flexen. Not a fan of that. So Sammy Peralta, again, I'm fine with giving him a look. Even though it looks like he's going to struggle to command his pitches at the big league level, he's got a 1.70 whip in 23 big league games. That does not exactly scream great bullpen arm. He's a guy that just keeps racking up frequent flyer miles between Charlotte and Chicago. And I think that's what he's going to be. He's an organizational bullpen depth piece. But let me circle back to Flexen being in the rotation over Kai Busch. Unless pitching guru Brian Bannister blessed this move, it makes no sense to have Busch work on things in the minors. It really doesn't, actually, because you're 70 games under 500. Let him finish the season out in the bigs. I mean, I get Nick Nastrini is pitching better at Charlotte, and he should get a look. But guess what? You can accomplish that by DFAing Chris Flexen. Get him off the roster. He has no value anymore. You're well past the trade deadline. Nothing is gained with Flexen continuing to put base runners on because that's what he does best, putting guys on. And then you got to hope like heck he can minimize the damage. You know what I'd rather have? I'd rather have that with Kai Busch and Nick Nastrini because doing that helps you find out what they can do going forward. Something is gained if Busch or Nastrini run into trouble. What can they do to get out of it? Give them those developmental innings because you're 70 games under 500. Did I say that they're 70 games under 500? Because they are. Now, Busch had one great outing out of 4 starts. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with being patient. He's he's a big lefty. The Sox have been known to develop big left-handed arms. And I would have no problem him going down to the minors if you had 5 better, younger arms in the rotation right now. And right now you got Garrett Crochet, who they're talking about shutting down. So boom, you got 2 spots there. If you shut them down, you can have Busch and Nastrini up at the same time if you just got rid of Chris Flexen. Because Jonathan Cannon, Davis Martin, yeah, I want them in the rotation. And yes, I think Nastrini deserves one more look. But Flexen is not a very good veteran. And he keeps losing and makes next to nothing. So you can't convince me that the Sox gain something with him still pitching every 5 days. And hopefully, if Drew Thorpe can come back from his arm injury in time to pitch the season, Flexen's time with the Sox is over. I'm done. Done with him, or get Touki Toussaint off this team. And I know I sound like a broken record, but again, the process this season has been just so bad in terms of you should be right now looking at what your young players can do. And I'll talk more about that with Elijah Evans tomorrow from Future Sox. Okay, back to the good on the roster move. Sox claimed infielder Jacob Amaya off of waivers from Houston. He's just played 5 big league games, but nothing wrong with taking flyers on young players teams have given up on. To make room on the 40-man roster, the Sox DFA Nick Senzel. He was barely playing and was clear from the beginning he was not going to revive his once promising career here. So I got no problem with them, saying goodbye. So I would say 3 good roster moves and bringing back Ramos, DFAing Senzel, and taking a flyer on Amaya. And nothing wrong with bringing up Peralta, but it was not enough when it comes to fixing the bullpen. And speaking of the bullpen, they gave up another lead last night, but that's not the most frustrating part of last night's loss. The Sox could not take advantage of a rookie pitcher, and I'll discuss more next on Locked On White Sox. Order supplies from the website that's made for the skilled trades. Find thousands of parts from hundreds of brands in just a couple clicks at SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com gives you 24 access to a huge selection of plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with fast delivery anywhere in the U.S. Need help with an order? Get industry-leading after-sales service from their friendly and knowledgeable customer support team and talk to a real person every time. And there's great news for plumbers, technicians, and contractors. Being a pro has its perks. Trade industry professionals can join their free TradeMaster program for free shipping and serious discounts on every order. Over 100,000 pros already trust the TradeMaster program to deliver results. Apply for your membership today and get a competitive edge on every order at SupplyHouse.com/TM. Save money and time when you order online. Again, order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from SupplyHouse.com. Real people, real service. And the White Sox start a 3-game home set with the Texas Rangers tonight. The first pitch is at 7:10 p.m. Central Standard Time. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. Welcome back into Locked On White Sox. I am your host, Todd Welter. Again, shout out to all my everydayers. Thank you for sticking with me this far. You might be like, where's Besnek Sakuri from On Tap Sportsnet? You said you're going to have him on the show. A scheduling issue came up on my end. Again, my wife still recovering from COVID. She was not feeling great yesterday. So, I was there to take care of my daughter. So I wasn't able to record with him last night for today's episode. So we're going to try to get him on. I promise you, I got to get, more guys from On Tap Sports. I really like what they do. I like what pretty much Sox on 35th is doing. Had Jordan Lazowski on. I'm going to probably try to get him back on. Future Sox, love what they're doing. Got Elijah Evans on tomorrow. One of the things that I will try to do for you again is to get you the information and get you other insights and perspectives other than mine. As I keep carving out my niche here on Locked On White Sox. So last night's 6-3 defeat to the Tigers was basically your run-of-the-mill defeat for the Sox. They keep having. And, that defeat also put them at 70 games under 500, a mark the Sox have never reached. 124 years, people. The Sox did it. They reached another mark in futility. And when you keep losing in Groundhog Day fashion, that's what you get to this point. Let's see. This loss. Offense, not scoring enough runs to put a team away. Check. Bullpen, blowing a good to great start by the starting pitcher. Check. The Sox not being able to take advantage of a struggling pitcher. Check. Sox not being able to take advantage of a rookie pitcher making his first big league start. Check. The only thing missing was some defensive errors and costly base running gaffes, and then you would have had a full bingo. And let's circle back to the taking advantage of a struggling pitcher. The Sox faced a rookie making his big league debut, and what qualifies Ty Madden as a struggling pitcher is this, according to SoxMachine.com's Josh Nelson's game write-up. This is a great paragraph. Making his major league debut for Detroit against the Sox hitters was right-handed pitcher Ty Madden. Selected 32nd overall in the 2020 MLB draft, Madden enjoyed great success at the AA level, but had ugly numbers with Toledo in AAA. Spanning 18 starts in the International League, Madden had a 7.97 ERA, allowing 17 home runs. The good news was Madden struck out 102 in 79 innings, but the 40 walks are eyebrow-raising. Facing a rookie pitcher who has posted shaky AAA numbers in hot weather at the ballpark, it was 91 degrees at the first pitch. Surely the White Sox lackluster hitters could take advantage of the situation presented to them. No, they didn't. That's the thing. They didn't. Sox got just 2 runs off of Madden, along with 4 hits and 3 walks. Now, sometimes rookies can shake off the jitters quickly and be tough the first time through the order, but the Sox got a run in the first inning, and Detroit's defense was bad backing up Madden that inning. They committed 2 errors. And again, not doing enough to put the team away is what has the Sox at 70 games under 500. Because Davis Martin pitched well enough to give the Sox a chance to win. And again, a Sox starter pitching well enough to put the team in a position to win, only to have the offense not score enough runs and the bullpen blow the lead is a big reason why this team has a terrible record. Martin pitched 5 innings as the Sox continued to monitor his workload coming off Tommy John surgery. He did give up a run and 7 hits along with a walk and struck out 4. He did throw 88 pitches through 5 innings. So that's kind of one of the reasons why they pulled him. But solid night, and he left with a 2-1 lead. But Jared Shuster and Justin Anderson gave the lead back in the 7th as they combined to give up 4 runs. And Anderson gave up a 3-run homer to Spencer Torkelson. And that is how you get a 4-game sweep, ladies and gentlemen, as the Detroit Tigers swept the Sox. And basically, the Sox can only beat the Cleveland Guardians, which are, they're in first place. So, the 2 accomplishments the Sox have had this season is they took 2 of 3 from the Braves, and they somehow find a way to beat the Cleveland Guardians. Otherwise, I think they've only beaten the Tigers once, they only beat Kansas City once, and the Twins once. 3 division wins against those 3 teams. And that is why you're on pace. Another reason, and a long laundry list of reasons of why the White Sox are on pace to lose over 120 games. Well, that wraps up this edition of Locked On White Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen today. Now go check out the Locked On MLB podcast. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it covered every single day. You can find the link to Locked On MLB in the description, so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I will be back tomorrow. Again, hopefully my schedule, my wife is feeling better enough where I can actually talk with Elijah Evans of Future Sox and Just Baseball, as he'll be my guest to talk about the farm system as it heads into the final month of the season. And he did make a recent trip to Charlotte and Kannapolis to actually look at these guys with his own eyes, talk to a lot of prospects. So I want to get his insights into the Sox farm system, as that's where the hope is, folks. Feel free to leave comments about today's discussion regarding the Sox should hire Kim Ng. The roster moves made yesterday, and the Sox being 70 games under 500 because another run-of-the-mill defeat and not being able to take advantage of a rookie pitcher last night. You can leave them at the episode page on YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, at Todd J. Dub or at Locked On Sox, or you can email me at lockedonwhitesox@gmail.com. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.